Hello everyone, welcome to IIMCircle Wits presents Author Talks, Conversations with Authors. I am Rakshit. Today we are going to talk to Bukesh Redinath, the author of The Night in a Dark House. Writing as Kingslayer, he did it backwards. He wrote his first book before he'd ever read one. With no influences to follow or formulas to imitate, his debut doesn't read like anyone else's. A Hyderabad native and a serial killer who works in IT sales by day and plots murders by night. I mean, a serial killer who works in IT sales by day and plots fictitious murders by night. He believes a good mystery should turn the reader into a detective. The reader should trust no one, suspect everyone, yet still get it wrong on the last page. Without further ado, let's jump into the book. So the first question is, what inspired you to write this book? And what's the inspiration behind the characters and the genre?
Firstly, thanks for the intro. I'm not sure if I'm actually a killer, but yeah, that's actually a good intro. Thank you, Rakshit. Uh, about the book and the inspiration, I think so. Like when you have siblings with you, right? Usually you end up quarreling a lot. Uh, part of that affection would mostly be of talking about cinema or music or whatever it is. So it's usually when me and my brother at the end of the day when we get back to bed, we end up discussing a lot about what can go right in this particular movie or what can what should have been in that particular cinema or something like that. So during that times was that was actually the origins of this book where so this story, as I mentioned, this is actually the genesis is from my brother. He's got most of the story, like at least 90% of the story. So from that I picked up, and I was freelancing during my bachelor's. Probably during my second year is when I started as a ghostwriter, freelance ghostwriter. So then I had to, work for a client. She's a US client. She's a nurse, and so when I was interacting with her and I wrote for her, uh, I finished the book, and then that's when she was mentioning probably you can write it for yourself. You need not be a ghostwriter. So I kind of figured out probably I can write something, but then since I read no book on that instant, at least till that point of my life, I was like, I'm not sure how I'll do this, but I know that I can write dialogues well in terms of writing the scene and the dialogue. So I was like, okay, let's just go with the flow. We'll see what happens. Then I got to know what Amazon Kindle is. I got to know, just I can publish is what I got to know. Then I was like, okay, I'll publish. But credit where it's due. The first page of my book is actually me crediting my brother because he's the soul of the story. I just added like a 10% of the end. That's it. So yeah.
Is there is there a local basis or a local myth on which the story is based out of, or is it entirely based on you and your brother's imagination?
Um, Again, I mean, probably at that point of time we were just uh, during our childhood when when our entire colony used to have no electricity back in the time. So we, as a group of friends, all just sit together. And when a group of friends sit together, especially at nights, it is usually some guy pulling up saying, "Do you know that horror story that actually happened in this particular home?" So it's just people talking, and that's when probably that is one of those spots where we figured out, and we used to so there used to be an auditorium, and beside that is a actual cemetery. uh, so we used to believe that whenever we go there, uh, we should come back by around 9 p.m. or 8 p.m., something like that. If not, we would hear wolves howling. So that's one of the points of why probably I chose cemetery in the story. But yeah, there's a part of childhood there, I must say. Yeah.
So the novel begins as a story about four orphan friends struggling for survival, and then
Mhm.
it transforms
Mhm.
into a psychological horror. So what made you
Mhm.
choose this transition?
I, I I think it's mostly like a calm before the storm kind of thing, because the start of the story pretty much goes like it's just four friends. Of course, they are trying to figure out life and all of that. The reason I kept education as a part of the lead's character is because, again, my father is the first generation person who's actually educated in the entire family. So that pretty much contributes to that individual in the story who's educated, and all the rest for just chilling out. And also there is this part where I believe that uh, especially the episode where it is raining and the person just dances in the rain. That part is where I feel like, I know that I'm writing something which ends up pretty horrific with time. There is a lot of bloodshed, there is a lot of mystery revolving around. At least let's give some semblance of hope for the readers for the initial two chapters, at least, so that they wouldn't just see a bloodshed right from the start. And I feel I can't just kill right from the first page. As simple as that. Yeah.
So did you already have this ending in mind when you started writing, or did it evolve during the writing process?
Uh, the ending, as I said, right? This I've taken inspiration from my brother. My brother's ending is the actual ending where most people can anticipate who the person is,
Mm.
and that I pretty much give away. Like, I mean, I probably gave away it in like maybe third chapter or so. Like, it's pretty like you know that what's happening, but post that is the actual bang, and I know that I can write that. So when I was just fumbling around with people saying, "Okay, who can be the killer? Who can be the killer?" I know that people know who can the killer be. But the fact of the matter is that is just me baiting you that okay, Lelo, take it. That good, you figured it out. The fact is you don't know what I'm giving you, and that's where I end up saying, this is how I'll end the story. And I'm pretty happy with the ending as well, because a lot of people are like, dude, I know who the killer is. I'm like, dude, there are like two more pages. Read it. So you know that you actually didn't know anything. So I that did evolve as I was writing. Uh, yeah, that did evolve as I was writing. But pretty much I had to take inspiration from whatever the sources I had at that point of my time.
That's actually the brilliant part of the novel. Because when you thought you figured out the novel before the protagonist did, and then it all unravels. So the final part reveals that the previous residents of the house actually died in the same way that John dreamt. So is there any clue
Mhm.
about this hidden in part two?
Oh, trust me, there are actually more than what I wanted to give away in part one. There are so many things. There are so many things, especially at the end. I didn't even realize that I wrote it that. Okay, again, the fact of the matter is, since I know what I'm writing for the next part, I can say it like, okay, these are the elements that probably people could have picked up. But yeah, in short, I feel I genuinely gave a lot of things, because there are certain elements. If you just what do we call it? It's like an Easter egg. Once you read, what's happening the next time, you will realize, okay, this is actually planted. Which again, like the way you plant things is that it just goes in hindsight. Okay, you might not see it at the moment, or when you are reading it, you might not see it, but once I must say, once you read at least the first page or one and a half page of the second part that I'm writing, even the most of the first part feels like I just just didn't make much sense with the end, because it's pretty much like uh, because the second part reveals most of what John's character is and what John's, like I must say, it's like the people got to see what John's, psyche is in the first part. They'll get to know what he is as a person, and once you get to know that, uh, way more surprises there. So I just keep it at that. Yeah.
Interesting. So, for your characters, you chose orphans, and their religious orientation, you chose them as believing in Jesus. What is the
Yeah.
reason or the significance behind this?
So that I so this might be funny enough, but if you see all those character names are they're actually WWE characters. Ray, Jeff, Matt. So it's like I again like this is what only one of my friends have caught on to. She was like, dude, itna bhi interest nahi hona hai from WWE kind of things, because she when she was reading the name Seth Matt, she was like, I know what you did there, but so there are a lot of things I did. Like I introduced Jonathan Wick, again a pullback there at the end. So I did such things, but choosing Christianity, I felt it's easier. I felt it's easier because I can talk about the concept of crucifixion. I can talk about the cave, which the so-called killer knows the entire story about, and it's easy is what I felt. It's easy to believe that okay, there can be ghosts or there can be something cynical that happens, especially if you don't bury the body or if you don't actually give the final respects. It's not like it's not in other religions. I just felt uh, again probably a WWE influence because I wanted those names to be in that, and I can't keep Seth and talk them as Seth Kumar Singh, so it doesn't make much sense. So Christianity pretty much aligned with a lot of parts in the story. That's the reason. But crucifixion is the actual element where I felt okay, this should go with the Christianity part. Yeah.
Interesting. So there seems to be two different forces at play. There is also the force of God, that is the Christianity or the Jesus element of it, and then there is also the force of evil. So how did you manage to make them
Mhm.
coexist?
I feel it's mostly internal. As in, if you go through the scenes that I wrote specifically on the main character, actually so most of those shower scenes, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty much an internal talk with every single person. So all of us go through that point in life where we are in such situations where you can choose to do the good part, but you will compromise on certain things. And also you can do you can choose to go the wrong path but end up earning some quick cash or earning some quick pride. But at the end of the day, would you really be happy with yourself is my point. So as long as most of those conversations with the character itself, it revolved along what most of us do, because those shower scenes are, trust me, those are my personal experiences. Because uh, when a super messed up day, I think most of us end up in a shower, and that 30 to 40 minutes is where you realize, okay, this is what is happening in my life. Okay, I know I can choose this path, but this might not be aligned with my particular core. So you have scenarios in your life itself where you can choose both good and bad. Again, the words good and bad itself can be perspective. Like to my perspective it can be good, to yours it can be bad. I feel it is very innate for all of us. We all know that there is both evil and good that exists together. It's just we choosing that path. Yeah, in the characters also, some choose a good path, some choose a bad path. The ones who read know it. But yeah, again, all of this wouldn't make sense once you read. Once you turn 2 pages in the second part, because I just know what's happening there. So yeah.
So you mentioned about the cemetery near your house. Did you experience any supernatural events around it?
Mm. Oh, as in super. This is how it goes, right? Like again, going back to those days where if you remember, there used to be this game called I don't know. Four people would sit here, and then there would be a coin rotating, and some people would act like some spirit is actually moving the coin. The game name itself is Spirit, I guess. I'm not wrong, but
Is there
there would
one?
be a Ouija board, and then yeah. So I'm not sure if you people have done it or it's just my childhood is that crazy. I'm not sure, but we used to do this kind of shit where there used to be we used to write ABCD, all of that, 1 2 3 4, all of that, and then it's just there would be some stupid guy who will just ask for a pinch of a drop of a blood kind of thing, and then we used to spin that coin, and there used to be like a yes and a no, and we would call friends a grandma who's probably died like few years ago, and then that guy would then enact as his grandma and then say that so as much as it sounds comical at the moment, at that time it would be that kind of supernatural thing that's happening. Oh my god, are we actually seeing a ghost, or are we actually witnessing something like this? So it's fun right now, but back in the day it was horrific. So if you consider that as supernatural element, then that was. Now I don't think I experienced much. So yeah, back in the day, absolutely. Every other day you would see such stupid folks. Probably my childhood was with wrong guys, but yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, which part of the book was the most difficult to write?
Which part was the most difficult to write? Ah, so many things actually, especially because when you write, right, I think the ones who wrote actually know this. You don't know if this clicks with the reader because you write it in a way where you feel in your mind that okay, this is actually making a lot of sense, and this is where the character drives. I felt personally, I really wanted the audience to understand the shower scenes. That's pretty much the thing. As much as I know that there's a final bang coming in, and I was so also that part of the end, after the end, I was not sure if the audience would actually get it, because I was like, okay, should I should just wait for my friends' calls, and then most of them were like, dude, I guess that, but yeah, the end was good. When a few people were calling me back saying the end was good, I was like, okay, good. But yeah, writing the shower scenes about you versus your own thoughts, that is probably the hardest part. Yeah,
And even the internet culture now that tries to microanalyze every step of the protagonist and the antagonist, right? That would have
absolutely,
get some.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, there were a few points in the book itself where my friends came back to me saying, "You wrote this because this happened to you in your bachelor's, right?" And like, probably now if I think, probably I wrote it that way. But as you were also talking, right? So huge influence from Trivikram and Allu Arjun. That's why there's a direct July dialogue that I took literal translate. So your so whoever it is, whoever writes or has some idea or some views, of course they end up showing it in a way, and their like creativity is mother of a lot of people around you. So of course I might not willingly or knowingly write a few things, but yeah, in the hindsight, if someone points saying, dude, this happened because you did that on that particular day, maybe. While I was writing, I don't plan saying that okay, this is why I'm writing this particular line or this particular dialogue. Yeah.
Interesting. So let's open the floor to the audience.
Oh, okay, sure.
Anybody has
I
any
wasn't
questions?
expecting.
Am I audible? I wanted to talk about the post-publishing marketing part of it, right? Can you talk a little bit about what marketing you did? What promotions did you do for the book?
You got to understand the origins first. I was a probably second year bachelor's guy. And at that time, I just did this because I wanted to try it out. And it's just at the start, I just gave it to my friends and asked them to. And also, I ran a few promotions just for them because Amazon Kindle gives you, a promotion window of you can publish it for a reduced price or even for free for like 2 weeks. And at that time, if people would buy that, then they could have a glimpse at what your thoughts are. I did that for like at least 2 to 3 times just because one, I didn't wish to genuinely sell the book. I wanted that to be free, but I don't know the means of making it free. But I also wanted to publish a book. So every time a friend asks me, "Did you write anything or something like that?" Just for that one person or just for those 2 to 3 people, I would again run the promotion to make it free. So for 2 weeks, it would be a free promotion, and then you would have access for it on Kindle and the general Amazon.com as well. And specifically, did I market it? No. At that time, I was horrible enough to not even have a WhatsApp. I was probably the only guy during my entire bachelor's to not have a WhatsApp. So, publishing wise, no. Amazon did help through the Amazon promotions that you can choose as an Amazon Kindle writer. But other than that, just mentioning friends, dude, I wrote this. Most of them were like, do you have this skill? So happens. You might surprise them with your skills. That's the biggest promotion, I would say.
I also have a question. So, Mukhya,
Yeah.
who was your favorite character? To me, the person I connected with the most, as somebody who intrigued me the most, was the father, because there's a lot of mystery surrounding who he really is, what he stands for. Who do you see yourself in the most?
Oh, the father. Like, let me be honest. When I wrote the father, when I was just narrating this, story to I kid you not, when I was in my bachelor's and I was just narrating this story, I was narrating in actions. So I was actually playing father, the lead, and their friend's character. And this took for like what 4 to 5 hours. My senior was super sweet enough to, see me act the entire book. But what happened is, while I was just narrating the intro of the father itself, he got that okay, probably this is your favorite character. The reason is simple. The person is mysterious. The person actually turns out to be a way more sweeter guy. It's just people don't know. It comes with time. But the point being, it's simply. I think Stanley said this or something like you would let the person win, especially since you are the writer. You know who would win, and you would let the person win that you want him to win. So I genuinely wanted the father character to be the standout guy because there is a lot of mystery element with him. There is a lot of information of that particular surroundings only to this guy. These folks are just new folks, and most importantly, um, it's also the ideology is what I feel. As much as like from the psyche, I would say the main character's psyche is what I like because it's pretty much every single individual, their pain, their loss, and most importantly, how they deal with it once you go through that. But again, just because of the mystery element and the fact that that guy pretty much gave nothing in the entire story, but still is the soul of the story, is the reason I like that guy. So, yeah.
That's really interesting because it's good to know that we're on the same side, father side. So another question I have is, a lot of people who are into reading are also interested in writing their story or end up in the place that you're in. And I know you told me that a lot of people in your life were there to support you, your client. But there's always this internal inhibition that people have, right? So when did that happen for you? When did you realize that it's time for you to just go there in the world as a
Oh,
writer?
oh, trust me, writing is just one part of me. There are things that I do like. Okay, the biggest fear I fear is that I don't want to end up getting a tag of one particular thing. I don't want to be another, or I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to be a lyricist or something like that. So at least to me, I'm like the biggest thing you would get is a backlash, and that wouldn't really hurt much because at the end of the day, you tried giving some creative part of yourself. And trust me, it's when you do multiple things is when you realize probably there would be some particular point where you connect all of these. This is something I wrote in my bachelor's, and we are talking in 2026. So this is how I look at life. This is like, bhai, karna hai to kar do. At the end of the day, if this comes up to you in life, that might. Crazy story. I was in this so-called something like a scouts and guides thing when I was in school. Okay, I was a scout, and guess what? That scouts and guides knowledge helped me crack my interview during my IIM. So that's how I came to this particular organization currently I am in. The reason is this is what I believe in. You see, even if this talk I'm having with you or this team right now, right? I know for sure that sometime, someday in my life, this might help. And second thing, even if this doesn't help, this is what I carry to my grave. So that is most important thing to me. If this particular point, if you feel like probably I might not write or I can't write, just try it out. I used as simple as Word doc. Like it's basic with every laptop. I didn't know there is something called a Kindle specific format. So I just use, yeah, that's it. That's it. As I said, right? Nobody knows until you just try it out. Again, writing in Word doc is as simple as you can do. Just go for it. And again, um, the point that you're mentioning that this person, the nurse, the client, actually helped me out is because um, she knows that I'm a budding writer, and this is a website called freelancer.com, and there were at least 50, 60 bits that happened to just that particular thing. Some particular God's grace, I don't know. I am sure that any new freelancer who wishes to try it out might not get it easy at this point. I genuinely feel I'm lucky, but the whole point is that person, the client, was super collaborative. That once I finish chapter 2 or chapter 3, I just give it to that person. And she used to get back to me saying, okay, this is unraveling great. Okay, this is happening good. And the point is, I just asked her once on why is she actually giving this to me. Then she said that one is I would love to hear from new folks because I don't want the rotten stories and old ones. And the second thing is, she's a nurse who pretty much deals with children of like proper kids, like 6 years, 5 years old kids who deal with leukemia, trauma, all that kinds of sorts. So that actually made me realize, okay, if there is something to write and to speak to the world, I'm not looking for 100 audience. I'm looking probably for this one person who might connect to the story, and that's it. Even if it doesn't connect, I would just live a life saying that, dude, I actually wrote a story. So, anyways, it's a win-win. It's just how you look at it, probably. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. It's so good to hear that you have this just no pressure of impressing others in any way. It's just for you, it's for your journey, and that's great. So, one question is, I think, the most important question: when is the part 2 coming? And what can we expect? Is it going to be more psychological, thriller, supernatural? What is the nature of the book going to be?
The second one, I don't want to give it out completely, but I must say the second one is mostly on the supernatural side because, again, the whatever the father character that we are talking about, actually turns out to be like Snape from Harry Potter series. Like that guy is super mysterious till then, but then you realize, oh my god, this guy is actually a good guy. So it's that kind of a character of the father, and I must say there is actually so much giveaway in that one last line, where the character mentions that he has an appointment with, again, upon Dr. Jonathan Wick. The point is, you don't know if that Jonathan Wick is actually the John himself.
I wanted to take a step back and go to a point that you mentioned earlier, right? You mentioned Word, but was there any AI used in any of this in the creative process or otherwise?
In a creative process, do I use AI is the question?
So question number one is, was AI used in any part of this journey, whether in writing or administrative or publishing or any of those parts? And if yes, where did AI get used in the process?
Okay, we are talking about a pre-pandemic era. Nobody knew AI back in the day. That's the reason I had to. That's the reason I had to use a Word doc, and Word doc helps. Okay, like you just have to start, and AI. Like I know for a fact that now that I'm also, like, other than this, I'm also writing a mythical saga, and for that I just gave a glimpse to my friends, and like, one of them was like, dude, you can use AI, and then you can make it look better. The point is, if I use AI, it might look better, but it's not me. So that's how I see. um I understand that there are a lot of things creatively that AI can do, but AI can't keep the voice of Shirdi. So uh, that's as simple as it is. Probably, if I want to make it, like, once I finish the story, if I want to, make the headlines italic or make the headlines bold, that's when I might use AI. Ki bhai, basic kar lo. Other than that, I wouldn't really. I prefer a writer's blank. Okay, the point when we write for like 1.5 hours and then we'll go blank for like 1 2 days. I love that, because that's when you realize that you are just a prompt away to go for the next step, but you're still trying to figure it out for yourself, because it's your mind, it's your experiences in life. Any creative we put out, I think we have a portion of us, which is also a portion of a lot of people that contributed in your life. So I don't want some tech to take it. Hmm. Maybe in the decorative part, sure. In the creative, no.
Thank you for joining us today, and audience, thank you so much for joining. Shiddy, all the best for part 2.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, folks. Thanks for your time, especially Rakshit and the IIMCircle team. Appreciate all your efforts and this interview. If you wish to check out my book, the link is in the description. Go hit it up.
Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. Like, share, and subscribe. See you all next time.